That's it. Loki season 2 is history. I saw it. Mike from Laughing Stock Media and Cinema saw it. Hopefully, you guys have seen it. If not, go see it because we're going to dive into it on this video. We're going to be discussing the final episode of Loki, which I think is actually the last episode of Loki. I don't
Mm.
think there will be a season 3. However, I do think we have not seen the last of Loki in the MCU. I think we have a lot more to come with him. But me and Mike are going to talk about it. So please make sure that you've seen the episode already. Some of the stuff that happened in the episode was we knew it was coming. Loki becoming the Avenger Prime or the God of Stories. That's literally what happened at the end. But it was so. This was the. Loki's the best MCU show, bro. This blows away
Mm.
everything else by leaps and bounds. And can you believe that Loki was developed to from what he was in Thor 1 all the way to Avengers Infinity War, where he basically at that point was a good guy? He changed, and now they did the same thing in the Loki series, except that's the Loki from 2012, the alternate timeline version, and yet now he's even more developed. They did
Yeah.
a better job with this variant than the original Loki.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was kind of disappointed in the way that Loki went out in Infinity War and everything because I felt like there was more for him to offer. So with this version, he doesn't necessarily have that same familiar connection that he built up with Thor in the main MCU, but this one is taken way further than they ever did in the mainline stories. And really, so much of what they did in this season and really Loki in general just is so much better than the entire last phase of Marvel, with the exception of maybe like No Way Home or
Right.
something.
Yeah, the writers for this show were really, really clever. They took their time. Every episode was like a mirror of the first season. The last
Hmm.
episode's name is the same as the first episode's name.
Yeah.
Like, they really, this, you could tell with this show that they sat down, took their time, and fleshed everything out nicely. So, let me get your interpretation of this. The way I interpreted the scene was the loom was only there to protect the sacred timeline. It was going to blow up anyways. So Loki, what he did using his magic and the fact that he was a god, was he basically became the new loom. So when he's grabbing those
Mm.
strands, those are literal timelines, and he's giving them life. So
Yeah.
Loki ascended into being a god. Now, they don't really explain how he did this, but
Yeah.
there is one explanation, and that is the fact that this man, it's so crazy they did this, learned everything about time travel in 2 centuries, and he was learning everything from Victor Timely and Ouroboros. Of course, for us it was like 2 seconds, 200
Hmm.
years. So when he became the Time Lord, by that point he had so much knowledge. He probably has the same or close to the amount of knowledge about time that Kang the Conqueror has.
Yeah, so it is pretty crazy. There's just so much stuff that happened last episode. It was like 3 episodes in one, basically, because of how much happened. Like we had Groundhog Day starring Loki. We had like the whole
Victor
thing
Timely
between him
died
and
like 11
Kang.
times.
Yeah, like over and over and over again. And it's just crazy because like another thing is too, like at the very end, we see that Loki, he like has the power to destroy the loom and everything, which I assume that's because it's kind of like the scene where he froze time,
He
and that, like
learned.
he's
He was
talking to
getting
Kang.
better. He
So
was
like
evolving.
he kept he's basically like Kang at that point, where like the He Who Remains variant, where he just did it over and over and over and basically figured out every single possible version. So we get the impression the last episode that He Who Remains is like that too, but I guess that he probably uses technology in order to do all of the things, whereas Loki learns and actually has the power to do it within himself, which, like I said before, basically makes Loki the most powerful person in Marvel right
Yep.
now. And
Yep.
like he takes
Yep.
that significantly further to where not only does he destroy something larger than like a universe, but like not only that, but he
He like
somehow is,
mutates it, controls
yeah,
it. I
like
mean, he's
somehow not
strong
just
enough to
that.
he's strong enough to control timelines.
Yeah, he literally can like hold entire timelines in his hands and like infuse them with his power indefinitely. So it's like Loki's power scaling went up like infinity times or something in this show, basically, where a lot of people are complaining that like Loki doesn't seem as strong as he should be. Like, why isn't he using his powers? But then at the end of the season, it's like Loki is like so much more powerful than like everyone else in the series combined thus far. So like even Thanos, like Loki could just be like, "Oh, you're in this timeline. Just let's go of it." And
Cut
Thanos
it.
and everyone dies.
And the
So
thing,
yeah, like
and he also,
I think
it was crazy that he got his throne because that goes all
yeah,
the way back to the beginning where Loki wanted to be a god. Well, guess what? Not only did you become a god, you are God now. You control the
basically
multiverse.
yeah.
But
Yeah, like he's basically like Thanos with the heart of the universe at this point, where he just like is, I guess, basically omnipotent. Like I don't know how anyone could do anything to this guy because he could just like let go of your timeline and you die.
yeah, it was almost like, let me know if you've thought about this. It felt like the entire last two seasons was He Who Remains training Loki to be his successor. It almost felt like he was doing it on
Mm.
purpose. Maybe not, but
Yeah,
I mean, it felt that way.
it's very possible because he did say that he wanted to try this time with Loki and everything. And plus, remember like in the scene where he sat down with Loki, where he's like, "You're my favorite," he was giving him the ultimatum. The only thing that I wonder is that now that they destroyed the mechanism of control, kind of like, essentially like the so much like you were saying in your review, so much of this is like straight out of the Matrix. Even at the very end with Mobius
Right.
and with Mobius and Sylvie, it reminded me of the end of Matrix Revolutions, where they're saying, "Oh, will Neo be back someday?" And then, unfortunately, it was in the next movie, which we have different thoughts on. But the fact of
Right.
the matter is, with this, essentially that like yeah, there's so much there, and it makes me wonder if because that mechanism of control is gone now, if he who remains will not be within that loop anymore. Like Loki is
Right.
completely and
Is he
broken the loop,
and
and
he's free, but also
yeah,
Victor Timely never got the manual,
hmm
so he never became a variant. And I mean, he was a variant, but he never became Victor Timely that we knew. And there's a new TVA manual, so it's almost like
yeah,
Loki rebooted the TVA. And based on the clues that were given at the end, the TVA's job now is to hunt down Kang the Conqueror variant. So that tells
mm,
me, Mike, that the TVA are not only going to be important to the multiverse saga starting with Deadpool 3, but now I think the TVA is going to be heavily involved in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. They have to be.
yeah, probably. They're gonna be like the multiversal time variation of the Agents of Shield. I'm
Yeah,
guessing
it's sort of like the time. What were they called in Dragon Ball Xenoverse? The
Time
Time
Patrol.
Patrol. Time Patrol. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're Time Patrol.
So
That's
one thing I
literally
was
what they've
wondering.
become.
Yeah. So one thing I was wondering on the topic of Deadpool 3 is that if I remember correctly, leaks say that Mobius is in it. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
I
like
heard
at the
that.
end of this season, Mobius leaves. So it's like, does it take place before he left, when he's still working for the TVA? Or like
Or
that's the thing, like
maybe
everything is out of order right now.
Or maybe it could also be that now that Loki's in control, he
hmm
did. They actually showed the symbolism of the the
Yeah,
Yggdrasil,
that was awesome.
yeah, the plant from.
The last episode was maybe the biggest visual spectacle in the history of the MCU. Like so much stuff that happened, they just went insanely beyond cosmic and like like
Yes,
Loki literally
they
walking and developing his horns and everything, and then grabbing the multiverse and bringing it together, and
that
like all
was
that stuff was just like awesome.
yeah,
So
that's like comic book stuff that you never see. I mean, they've been experimenting with that because when I went to go see Love and Thunder, they had Eternity there, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like
oh
I
yeah.
never expected to see something like that, dude. Like that
The only
was
thing is that they kind of changed Eternity in
yeah,
Love and
of
Thunder,
course.
where it was like a wishing well, like the Dragon Balls or Shenron all of a sudden, instead of like being the incarnation of the physical universe. But either way, I guess Loki is now basically he's almost like Eternity now, I guess. He's like the incarnation of like time or of existence at this point,
He
just like
controls the
holding everything
multiverse.
together.
But what I was going to tell you is now that Loki's in charge, maybe Mobius, because the whole thing
Hmm.
is he's given them free will. That's that the
Yeah.
whole argument this season was free will predestination. Now that Loki's in charge, he's going to give them free will, watch the timeline splinter off, but still keep an eye on it. What if a variant of Mobius goes home,
Okay.
another variant stays with the TVA, or what if they have so much freedom that now if you work for the TVA, it's like a regular job. You go to your regular timeline, but from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
time, you work for the TVA. They could do something like that because that's still his boy. Like the thing that made this episode crazy, Mike, was Loki, He Who Remains gave Loki two options. kill Sylvie
Hmm.
so that he who remains would not die, or
Yeah.
let the multiversal war happen, which is going to happen anyways. And he made a third choice by sacrificing his life. He might never see. He's going to see his friends again, but he might never be able to interact with them the same way because.
Yeah.
But at the
He has to
same
be
time,
perpetually holding everything in place
yeah,
or it dies.
he evolved. He's more than just a mortal now. Like now he really is a god, even beyond Odin, even beyond Thor. Like he's a god
Hmm.
now in every conceivable way. Now here's the thing though. I've seen some people ask this question and they ask, well, if Loki is now God, why doesn't he just go and kill all the Kangs? So here's why. Because from what I understand, the scene that we saw in Ant-Man with the Council of Kangs, the place
Yeah.
where they're at exists outside of the multiverse. They're not
Hmm.
in the multiverse. They can go to the multiverse, but the little citadel that's with all the
Yeah.
statues that they were at, that is not in any of the timelines. So Loki
Yeah.
does not
And
have access to it.
yeah, it makes sense because where Loki is beyond time, where the TVA is beyond time, where the place beyond time, where that mansion was that the He Who Remains is in.
It's a pocket dimension basically.
Yeah, so it makes perfect sense. The main thing I was thinking too is that like, we know that Loki infuses all the multiverses with with his
The
energy and keeps them
green,
alive and
yeah,
stuff.
the green
Yeah,
thing.
so the thing is like, does Loki actually have the ability to like individually kill different people in the timelines? I don't think so.
I don't
Otherwise
think
the
so.
TVA wouldn't
I think he
exist.
just
He
killed
would
the
just
entire timeline.
yeah, he would just erase all of the Kangs if he had that power. The thing is too, like, one thing I was thinking is that because Loki is like using all of his power to hold everything in place and kind of give it life, it kind of does make you wonder if that will make him somewhat vulnerable to being attacked by the Kangs. Because like if he tries to like defend himself and fight back, he's got to let go of the timelines, right? So
Well,
like
right,
if the
but
Kangs want to exploit that, then
do the
maybe they'll.
Kangs have access to where he's at? Also, we don't know that either.
Yeah,
And then
we don't really know where he is, I guess.
this was a great episode, but there are still some unanswered questions. One of
Hmm.
which has to do with Renslayer. We saw her for a
Oh
minute.
yeah.
It looked like she saw Eliath, then that we didn't see her anymore. So I saw somebody online say that she basically is being punished for helping out He Who Remains and lying to everybody. So
Mm.
she's going to be stuck in the void forever. Because
Uh,
but I have a feeling we're gonna see her again. The other thing too is
yeah.
Miss. Did Loki when he took over the Loom and destroyed it and rebuilt it in his own image, did he reprogram Miss Minutes, or is she
Mm.
still loyal to the original He Who Remains? These are unanswered
Yeah.
questions. Like we don't
Yeah.
even know.
So with regard to Miss Minutes, what I thought happened maybe is that Ouroboros like either recreated her or brought her back. And then at the end, it is a little dumb because they're like, "Are we sure that she's not going to kill all of us?" And he's like, "I don't know." And it's like
That was
maybe you
funny.
shouldn't have brought her back. But like the thing is with regard to what was the first question?
No, the first one was about Renslayer because
Oh yeah,
I thought she was gonna do a lot more in this episode. She had one like what 30-second scene and that's it.
yeah, me too. I mean, she did. I guess they did have like the flashback versions of her, but
Right.
at first, when she was waking up there, like I knew that's where she was in like the place with Eliath. And when she was waking up, I was like, "Oh, is this a plot hole? Because like, how would this even happen?" But then I thought about it, and I
She
was
got
like,
pruned.
"No." Yeah, she got pruned before the point when Loki took over and destroyed the Loom. So it makes sense that she would be there. The
Right.
only thing I was wondering though, with regard to that, is they never actually resolved how she got pruned. Because remember, Ben or whatever his name is pruned her, and you could see that he was taken over at the time by somebody, but then they never actually showed
Yeah,
who took him over.
it's Sylvie, but you're supposed to figure it out. They didn't actually tell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like,
Yeah.
I don't mind
And we
some
didn't
things
see
being
him either in this
unexplained.
episode.
Yeah, that's true. So it is kind of weird that they left that open, but I think that the way that she looks with her, like you could tell that like Eliath comes up to her. I think it even says in the subtitles that it's like him roaring or something. And at first she seems scared, but then after that she seems like more like she has resolve. She's
I
gonna
like
do
how
something.
they didn't show a
So
live to save on CG costs. You notice that? They just shine
I mean,
lights
they
in her
even did a lot
face.
of those in this scene before that, so it makes sense. But I think that like that all shows us just by looking at her face that she's going to be able to use Eliath, and so she's going to be back
She'll
as a
be back
villain. But
in the Avengers movies. You think? Yeah, because
he
that's
might be like the main villain for all we know. But like I think that at least for now, hopefully it's gonna be Kang, but
Well,
we'll
what
have
I'm
to see if
hoping
the
for,
justice system can defeat Kang
I
first.
hope one of the variants is married to her. You know,
Yeah, I mean that's what
to a
I was
variant of
looking.
her. I'm saying, yeah.
Oh, okay,
You know, because
because
there's
that was the
probably
thing.
variants of her too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that was the thing. I was a little disappointed with this season because I thought they were setting up like a romance between her and He Who Remains, and like then it
Well,
didn't
they
really end
were,
up
but then he's
happening.
like, "Nah,
So
I don't have any partners. I'm not good with partners."
yeah, so like we see that that flashback of him sending her to the TVA and then erasing all their memories and stuff. So like they never actually got to that point either in the show. So again, like there are little things that they left behind that make me wonder if everything that's happening now is still a part of Kang's plan somehow.
Yeah, I
And
thought about that too.
yeah, like after 2 seasons of everything being his plan, for it to suddenly not be any part of his plan at all. And like when Loki was like making up his mind about what he was going to do, the He Who Remains seems like he was way too confident about anything that Loki does because he just assumes that he's going to win no matter what. So I kind of feel like they wouldn't have left it open in that way. He would have maybe they would have had a scene where he's like, scared and afraid that things are going to happen. They did have the moment where Loki said, "Is it a mercy for them or is it a mercy for you?" So maybe that was their way of doing it. But like I've said before, I'm probably going to have to rewatch the whole show before I do my review because especially in this last episode, there's so
There's a
much
lot
that
happened.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's hard to even do a full on review of.
I want to ask you. Well, there's a few more things I wanted to cover, but first of all, I wonder, and I think the answer is no. But every time that Loki kept trying again, and Victor
Yeah,
Timely would die, he'd go faster and all. It was pretty funny, but did that create a branch timeline every time? I don't think it did
I
because
don't think
they're in
so.
the TVA world, but it does
Yeah.
make you wonder. Maybe in one of those time rewinds, maybe Red Slayer didn't die, so there might be
Hmm.
one there. There might be one in the void. I don't know. I feel like the
Yeah.
Red Slayer thing was weird because I have this feeling. Okay, so I think we're gonna see her again at some point. I just have
Hmm.
that feeling. And Kang is still the
Yeah.
villain because they said at the end of the episode they're trying to find He Who Remains variant. And they
Yeah.
brought up Ant Man. They were like, oh, there was one the 616, whatever. And that was obviously Ant Man. The Ant Man fight with
Yeah.
that Kang. But one of the things that going back to what I was talking about with the Kang, the Council of Kang not being in the timeline, they might not be in any of the timelines that Loki controls, but they
Hmm.
definitely have access to them because the technology that Immortus has, obviously it looks very much like what we saw Reed Richards use in Doctor Strange, that blue like teleportation
Yeah.
thing, that
Smartest
phasing.
man. Now let me tell the reality warper how all of her powers work so she can kill us all.
I know, not very smart, but whatever. But I like that actor. So,
Yeah.
a Quiet Place guy. I always call
Yeah,
him the Quiet
Krasinski.
Place guy. Yeah, Krasinski. He should have been. Yeah, he has like an alpha beard. But anyways, okay. So I feel like Kang, unlike Loki,
Mhm.
but similar to what you said earlier, he can access the multiverse with technology and using, because it all makes sense to me now after watching this season. Because I was thinking, okay, how the fuck are the Council of Kang finding all these variants? That because remember they're
Mhm.
all teleporting into the Coliseum. Easy,
Oh yeah.
easy, because they explain it in Loki season 2 that you have
Mhm.
a temporal aura that
Yeah, the
exists in time.
signature.
So clearly those Kangs were looking at the entire multiverse and targeting all of the synonymous temporal auras that match up to his and plucking them all out. So that means
Okay.
that Kang. That's the way. I mean, it makes sense. That's so.
Yeah,
So.
I
So.
didn't even
Yeah.
think about that.
Well, the season explained it. So now I think that because the Kangs don't have access to the multiverse. I mean, I'm sorry, they do have access to it, but they're not in it. But it's interesting because remember, Immortus said they're beginning to touch the multiverse.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to figure out is what is ultimately Kang's plan? Because He Who Remains' plan was to stay in power forever, but at the same time, he was also doing the right thing, quote unquote, by keeping his variants out.
Yeah.
So, and also, I do want to say, I did love the interaction with him and Loki in this episode. I compared it to, again, the Architect and the Matrix. Oh, well, I,
Mhm.
I knew you were going to phase that. I made all this happen. But,
Yeah.
I hope, like, I do hope that we see that character again. But, so,
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, so even though Loki's like super powerful, right? I feel like he still might not be powerful enough to defeat Kang on his own
Yeah.
because of Kang's technology. Remember, He Who Remains said that
Okay.
all the variants started sharing information with each other. So
Hmm.
you have multiple futures with multiple different aspects of science all combined together. That's why Kang is dangerous. I have to explain to people like
So,
Thanos might be scarier. He's a big motherfucker with a fucking gold glove and shit. But Kang has knowledge of all his enemies. It's like that whole thing where Batman can be anyone if he knows them,
yeah.
which is not true. But Kang is like Batman, except he is from the future and he knows everything
Yeah.
and has tech that.
Bat-
Yeah,
Batman does have a better power than Loki and Kang combined, though. It's
what's
called
that?
prep time.
Prep time. Yeah, but Kang and Loki can control time itself. So
Yeah.
all time. Remember, this episode Loki had 200 years of prep time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That was one of the things. There are just so many little things in this episode, but I did have a thing on the topic of what you're talking about, Loki not being able to handle the Kangs, which is maybe Loki's could take the place of like the Beyonder or
I was
like
thinking
the
that if he's
yeah,
as
and so he's
strong
gonna
as him
like
now,
he's gonna gather all the most powerful fighters from each individual timeline to make his own like multiversal
Battle
Avengers to
World.
fight the Kangs. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is instead of doing the Beyonder, they could just have Loki do it and just
Yeah.
combine the ideas. Yeah, because there was a rumor about Kang. And I am curious about that because it does seem like now the way it's being set up, Loki can't get out of there, like you said. He's stuck there for eternity, controlling all the timelines. But
Hmm.
he reprogrammed the TVA. My question to you is, and I'm gonna answer with my theory. I
Okay.
don't think there's going to be a season three because
Nah.
the way that the writers talked about it, they said that season one and two are like two sides of a book, the first half and the second half, and
Makes sense.
there's a complete loop here in the story. I think that Loki will still be around. He's gonna be like the Watcher. I think we'll see him like again, right? I just don't think we're gonna see like the adventures of Loki and Sylvie. We might see Mobius again, like you talked about in Deadpool, maybe little cameos here and there. But I don't think we're gonna get any more story from B-15 or any of them. I feel like the TVA stuff's gonna just be now sort of a backdrop for the another group that's aligned against Kang. I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna get season three. However, the Renslayer stuff, either they could make a season three or give her her own show, like the Agatha show that's a spinoff of WandaVision. They
Oh,
can give
right.
her her own show. So my question to you is, do you think there should be a season three? Do you want there to be? Would you make it? And if so, what would you do with it? What could you do with it?
I mean, I assume that season three is basically just gonna be the next phase or two of Marvel. Like they base this whole show is like set up for the coming phases. So
Right,
I don't
yes.
think that there needs to be another season because they've already done everything that they need to do, and anything else could be resolved in like kind of like what they were doing with Thanos, the post credit scenes, like certain things that are popped in along the way, and kind of like the biggest issue with the past phase or so of Marvel is there was no real unifying story or theme like with Thanos. Like from Avengers 1
Right,
up until
right.
Endgame, one continuing narrative and one main villain behind the scenes. And
Yes.
now the same thing is
There's a
happening
lot
with
of plot
the
threads
new.
everywhere.
Yeah. So like all these movies that we just saw, like Shang-Chi and like all these other movies barely
Eternals.
had any connective
Eternals.
tissue to anything
Eternals had
happening.
something was setting up something with the Celestials that has nothing to do with Kang.
Yeah. I don't even care if they do anything with that stuff because I hated that movie. But either way, like, the same thing with the Marvels. I don't know what they're setting up there. I'm not planning on watching that movie in a theater.
Well,
So
did I send you the post credit scene? Because I think I may have sent it you. Did I send you
I
the
don't
link?
think so. But this is all hypothetical, Disney. Don't worry. But either way,
I'll send it to you. It leaked. Doesn't
all right.
matter. Fuck it. Fuck
Okay.
them.
So yeah, the thing is,
Well,
I
they're
just,
setting up the X-Men universe with it. I mean, that's what they're doing,
yeah.
and
No, I
that's
mean,
cool. That's a
a
cool
little
thing.
piece of that too in Doctor Strange as well. Now, the thing
Yeah.
is, I mean, I just assume that all of the multiverse movies and stuff take place now after this final season, the final episode of
Yes,
Loki.
I
So,
believe
like,
so.
That's like when Loki made like that multiverse essentially, like of timelines, he also created the multiverse of madness. He created essentially the or allowed the existence of the X-Men universe with Xavier. The only thing is like which Xavier is that? Is he from any of the previous
All of
movies
them,
or
all of them,
you
because
know,
there's multiple Xaviers. Even
yeah.
before the idea of a multiverse, or even before the idea of Disney buying Fox, there were already
Hmm.
multiple Xaviers and multiple
Yeah.
Wolverines. You've got the one that died in Logan, the Weapon X. That's not the same one that was in the '80s. And there's
Hmm.
two different Dark Phoenix storylines, so they have already got
Oh yeah.
the Fox X-Men universe already has multiple timelines. They did
Yeah.
time
It
travel
was already all
before
messed up.
the Avengers, right? So I'm thinking that I think I read this. The Wolverine that's in Deadpool is not the Logan Wolverine. It's a variant. It's another
Yeah.
Wolverine.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? So with
I'd rather he be from like the original
the X-Men,
timeline up
the Bryan Singer
Logan.
movies,
Yeah,
right?
because I was never really like the let's say up to Days of Future Past, because like
I love that
that
movie.
is like one continuing story, and I never really view. I don't know if I view Logan as a sequel to Days of Future Past. The thing is, like, if it is, it's a really disappointing way to end the franchise because everyone's dead,
It's a
and
very
it's just
sad way.
yeah. So like, I'd much rather have like continuing stories that have a little bit more hope than oh everyone got killed because Professor Xavier has dementia and he killed everyone by accident. It's like
I think yes, but I think that was also I think I read this somewhere. Logan was only one, like, not to even use the words, but it was one timeline because
yeah.
it's sort of like how in Days of Futures Past, all the mutants were killed by the Sentinels, the transforming ones, the Nimrods. That was sad until they fixed it.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's probably a branching timeline. Plus, let's not forget, and they never followed up on this. Remember how the Logan in the past woke up and was with Mystique? They never
Yep.
followed up on that. So to this day, that's an unfollow. And then don't forget the teases from Mr. Sinister, SX
Oh yeah.
Corporation. They never followed
Brian
up with it.
Brian Cranston was supposed to play him, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't even know that, but I mean, he's good at everything. But the point is, like, there's a lot of unresolved things that are probably never going to get resolved now that Disney bought them. But
Yeah.
but it is exciting that we're going to finally get the X-Men. That is an exciting thing that's going to make the Avengers movies coming up really fun. But
Yeah.
but then
Here's the big question I do have. The
well,
biggest
do you think there's going to be a season 3? That was the question I asked you.
no. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I do have a bigger question though.
All right.
Since Loki is continually sitting on that throne and he has to hold the timelines in place,
There better be
what
a
if he has
toilet
to
built into it.
yeah, what if he has to use the bathroom? Like he's gonna be there for all eternity. What if he had Taco Bell earlier at the TVA or something?
Well,
He's
he's
got to
not
get up
you.
and use the bathroom. He's got to let go of the timelines and let trillions die so that he could, pull his robe down.
Yeah, the way. Let me make sure that you understand the way I did. He's holding the timelines. He's basically the new Loom. How the
Yeah.
Loom was holding it, so he's holding them like what the Loom was doing. But it's a human do or not a human, a person doing it.
Yeah.
But he's also not just killing timelines. He's letting them live, and instead the TVA is specifically going after Kang.
Hmm.
But here's kind of the big question, which I'm sure we'll have answered soon. How the
Yeah.
fuck is the TVA going to be able to fight any of the stronger Kangs? They could probably
Yeah.
kill Victor Timely and guys like that. But when we start going into like Rama Tut and these guys that have all
Hmm.
these crazy powers, Centurion, Iron Lad, it's
Yeah.
a Kang variant,
Exactly.
it's Iron Man. They're probably
Not
not
even
gonna
just Kang.
they're probably not gonna do Time Eater Kang because that's too much for a movie. But I feel like that he
Yeah.
would just wouldn't he just run through the TVA, just kill them all by himself?
Plus, Kang could start doing the exact same. Like, what I'm assuming is going to happen is the TVA is going to start to recruit variants to help them, like more powerful, let's say,
Yeah, like
metahumans to grow
right,
into
right,
a
right. I
super.
think that's what the rumor. One of the rumors, and this is just a rumor, is that in Kang Dynasty, the Avengers lose to Kang, the newer Avengers with
Mhm.
like Spider-Man and them, and then Loki, the same one that we saw, goes to multiple timelines, picking out like Wolverine, Magneto, all these different heroes to fight the Kangs, including like Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, the Chosen Ones, Deadpool. So I would love it if they did something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Now the thing is, do you think that we're going to get Kang doing the exact same thing but evil? where he's going to have like his own evil Avengers with like the evil variants of Tony Stark and Captain America and like all that stuff.
The
And he's
Clone
going to have that.
Wars.
Yeah, it's going to be like
No, I think it'll all be Kang
Iron Man versus
variants.
Iron Man and, like
Nah,
stuff
I
like
think
that.
it'll be like the way I picture it, I could be wrong. The end game finale when you saw all the heroes lined up and then you had Thanos, but
Hmm.
instead of Thanos, it's all the Kangs. They're all just it's all
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors' face, if he's still around. We'll see what happens. His face will be duplicated like 10,000 times. It's like it'll be like the Agent Smith fight in Matrix Reloaded.
So if one of them
The burly
dies,
bro.
is it gonna be like the funeral scene at the end of Endgame where like one of the Kangs dies and you just see like a whole bunch of Kangs
That'd
in
be
suits
awesome.
and they're all
That'd be
looking at like
awesome.
the
The thing is, they
there's
all
so much
hate each
fun they could
other.
have with this.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and they all secretly hate each other. Like I think Rama Tut and Centurion are loyal to Immortus, but if in the comics,
Hmm.
Immortus, I remember in the comics, Immortus was like he who remains here, where he wanted to get rid of all the other Kangs because they were all causing problems. That was
Hmm.
Immortus's role. But it seems like in this version of the story, Immortus is leading them all to cause trouble. Like, is he planning to
Yeah.
invade the multiverse just to conquer it? Like, we still, that is one thing that this episode was missing. We
Hmm.
know He Who Remains' motivations. We know Loki's motivations. We still don't really know the motivation of the other Kangs, other than when He Who Remains said they just wanted to conquer more realms. So maybe it's just an ego thing where he just wants to rule, like Loki, except in a bad way.
What if they pull a Magog and basically what happens is that Kang fuses with all of his other Kangs, the infinite amount of Kangs, they fuse together, and then Loki fuses with all of his variants, and they're punching each other, and like timelines are exploding because how strong they are.
That I love that idea as a nerd, but I don't know if the general public can handle something like that. I
I don't
mean,
care. I'm gonna go see it in IMAX with Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos, and I'm gonna
me
I'm
too.
gonna like it.
Me too. Me too. Me too. I actually really hope that they don't change the plan that they have, only because
Yeah.
I think, my opinion, people keep saying replace him with Doctor Doom. I think what you could do is introduce Doctor Doom in the Secret Wars movie, have
Yeah.
him win the Secret Wars if they even do that, and then instead of that him being the villain, Kang is still the villain. But what you do in
Hmm.
Secret Wars is Doctor Doom becomes the villain for Phase 7 and 8. So he becomes the villain but doesn't die. He escapes. And then in the
Yeah.
future, like in future movies, the X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four have to deal with Doctor Doom now, whatever he's up to. That's what I would like as a fan, because then you're getting
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, the thing is, look how long DC kept on Ezra Miller after all the stuff he was doing. Like, we can't just keep Jonathan Majors in the movies. Like, he's doing a great
Well,
job.
Disney's different than them, but they haven't gotten.
Yeah.
I think that Variety article scared people. They haven't gotten rid of him yet, but they have a plan to change it if he's found guilty.
Yeah,
Which,
they're
to be
replacing him with
honest,
Michael Cera.
oh God, to be honest with you, bro, I don't think he's gonna be found guilty. But what do I know? Anyways,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, this was a great episode. Lots of time travel. Like, there was a ton of Shakespeare. There were so many Easter eggs. The
Hmm.
Shakespeare lines that he had. Is Loki the best MCU Disney Plus show? I think it's like leaps and bounds better than everything
Not
else.
even, yeah, not even a question for me. It's like,
Yeah,
what's close to it? Captain America and the Winter Soldier,
that was okay. I mean,
WandaVision,
that was fun for a while until Ralph Boner showed
uh,
up.
Miss Marvel. Pull my
I
red letter
actually,
media
I
impression right
yeah,
now.
I know. I actually kind of like Miss Marvel. She's the only good thing about the new movie.
Moon Connect.
Oh,
Uh,
Kenigti.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't
it's
see
like
that.
the
I didn't see that one yet.
Monty Python. If we got like yeah, like Ralph Boner, that was the thing that
Big
like they had an
mistake.
opportunity
Big
to set up the
mistake.
multiverse right then and there, and they're like, no, let's just make a dick joke. It's like
Yeah, that
at,
was a.
at least Loki wasn't that dumb. I mean, they had the McDonald's scene, the hot cocoa scene, but that was better than Ralph Boner, that's for sure.
I feel like the two biggest mistakes Marvel has made in this phase is the Ralph Boner tease. That's one. And the other one is the ending of She Hulk. Because to this day,
Oh
the
God.
ending of She Hulk, where she leaves Disney Plus to talk to Kevin the robot, that is one of the worst. I mean, that I
Cringe.
it's still I didn't like the Marvels, and that's worse than the Marvels when they did that. I hated that
Yeah.
ending so much, bro. But anyways, the next story we're gonna look into is Deadpool 3. Even though Echo's coming out in January, and I think X-Men 97 might finally be coming out next year,
Finally.
Deadpool 3 is out next July, and that's gonna be the next big movie, Mike, where we're gonna see the TVA. Any
Yeah.
predictions before we get out of here of what we might see? Not regarding Deadpool and Wolverine, just what Loki's role may be or Mobius. I know they're going to be recruiting people, but what else is there?
I mean, Loki, I think, is going to be the good guy behind the scenes, kind of like Thanos. He's going to be like beyond the multiverse because like he
Like the
can't even
Watcher.
be in it anymore. Yeah, so like he's probably going to be like doing a little bit of organizing and helping the TVA and stuff. Like he's going to be the one who basically organizes them to do this or to do that. But ultimately, I don't really see him being in a lot moving forward unless they show some of his variants. I think he'll be in like really major parts, like maybe he'll like speak directly to like a main character and be like, I need your
Right.
help,
Yeah,
do this,
to recruit
like
them.
the Watcher, like you're
I
saying.
want to see him meet up with Thor again. I would
Yeah,
like
like
that.
it would be cool. It would be interesting because he's not the same Loki that died, but at the same time, we're gonna get into a lot of that too, where like
Right.
we're gonna start
Right.
seeing characters who did die coming back, and people are gonna have like emotional reactions to it. So it's
Yep.
gonna be
But
how do they
but
interact with like the
But
not
like
dead versions
Thor,
of them?
but like Thor seeing Loki for the first time since he died at the hands of
Yeah, that'd
Thanos,
be great.
but it's not. It's a different Loki. It's no different than like if one of your friends died and you had access to the multiverse and you
Yeah.
found the variant. I mean, if one of my, I'll tell you what, if you die, Mike, and your variant's a hot big titty fucking ginger chick, I'm gonna have my hands all over you or her. We're gonna end the video on that
Pause.
creepy note. Make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you think and what the future of Loki is, and check out Laughing Stock Media and Cinema.
How's it going?
Bye.